If you made a 31 on your ACT and had a GPA that was higher than a 3.5, they paid 100% of your tuition for 4 years. This test is trainable. It's not really like an IQ test of how smart you are. To go from a 22 to a 33 was kind of unheard of. The first thing that happened as far as tutoring was, my mom was basically like, you got this full ride to Auburn and you're getting your college paid for. Go help your baby brother Reed do the same. Was able to get him from a 22 to a 30, and he got a big scholarship.
You think colleges will help you and promote you or stop you? What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs today in the studio. Folks, as always, I got a real treat for you. Harrison Hightower's in the house. What's cracking?
What's up, Brad? How are you doing today?
I'm killing it. Hey, if you guys want to follow this dude, and I'm sure you will, go to @Harrison Hightower. It sounds just like it's spelled. Harrison Hightower. Dude is the founder of HighPrep Tutoring and Test Prep.
Yes,
what
sir.
got you into that, dude?
So, Brad, it's kind of a long story, but to kind of explain how I got into the tutoring game, basically, I grew up in Jacksonville, Alabama, very small rural town. I went to a county high school that had roughly 70 people in my graduating class. And I grew up in a very, kind of normal middle-class family. I grew up in the type of family where my dad worked in sales, my mom worked some part-time jobs, stayed at home with me and my brother for several years. And
working in sales.
Yes.
See, that makes him a winner already.
Yes. My dad is a big sales guy for sure. And, grew up in the type of family where, we always kind of did, well, like took very good care of us, decent house, decent cars and stuff like that. But they weren't in the type of situation where they had a dedicated college fund to pay for us to go to college. And I learned when I was in about 10th grade that if you wanted to go to a big SEC university and get it paid for, if you have a certain ACT score and a GPA, they'll pay 100% of your tuition. All right. And so I knew that I wanted to go to Auburn University to go to college because I kind of wanted that, SEC experience and everything that comes with that. Mm-hmm. And at that time, back in 2014, if you made a 31 on your ACT and had a, GPA that was higher than a 3.5, they paid 100% of your tuition for 4 years. And so I kind of learned, I'm like, all right, I'm going to take this test and I'm going to get that score and I'm going to get my, tail out of Jacksonville and go to Auburn, and that's where I'm going to go to school. And so I took the ACT for the first time as a sophomore and I made a 22 out the gate. And for any of your audience that doesn't know kind of the score range, it basically goes from a 0 up to a 36. A 36 is the max score you can make. And so when I made that 22 out the gate, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit above average, but that's not going to get me a full ride to Auburn and it's not going to do the trick. And so I got to give my mom credit here because she ordered probably 5 or 6 different strategy books on Amazon, put them, in my room, and I just kind of started digesting the material. I started learning different ins and outs of the test, different strategies, reviewing a lot of the content and stuff like that. And I took the test again a few months later and I made a 27. So I went from a 22 to a 27 off the bat. And I was like, man, like this test is trainable. And it's not really like an IQ test of how smart you are. It's, do you know how to take the test and do you know the right content? And so then from there, I just kind of kept working at it over the next year into my senior year. And from the 27, I went up to a 28, then I hit a 29, hit the 31 in September my senior year, and ended up taking it one more time in October because my mom had signed me up for that test before we got the September score. And I ended up finishing out at a 32 composite with a 33 super. So, for a guy, going to a really small county school in Alabama to go from a 22 to a 33, especially at that time, was kind of unheard of. All right. So, I did that, got my Auburn number. And the first thing that happened as far as tutoring was, my mom was basically like, Harrison, you got this full ride to Auburn and you're getting your college paid for. Go help your baby brother Reed do the same, right? She's like, go help his ass out so we don't have to pay for that. And so, I started working with him. He was Mr. Basketball in high school and he cared about the ladies in basketball and that was about it. He wasn't nearly as driven as I was, and was able to get him from a 22 to a 30. And he got a big scholarship to Auburn too. Got to come down there with me and, had a blast all the way through college. And that's how I initially got in the tutoring game.
Even with the 30?
Yes, even the 30. It wasn't a full tuition
They're
scholarship.
picking the bottom of the barrel, weren't they?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So
So did you guys do well at school?
Yes. So we were the type, man, it's like growing up, if I'm being honest, I got to give my parents credit here. You know, they really pushed us to kind of always be our best. And it wasn't that they were like, hey, you need to be making straight A's and, you know, this or that. It's just they wanted to see that we were doing our best and really applying ourselves. And, you know, man, my mom, you know, she encouraged us to just read books and, you know, work hard at school, stuff like that. And we always kind of made straight A's and stuff like that. And the thing is, though, it did not carry into the ACT, because the thing about high school curriculums, like, they're not designed for that test. Mm-hmm. The ACT is a completely different ball game, and that's why we see thousands of students that are like, hey, like, I'm smart, I make straight A's. Why is my ACT not in the 30s? And that's because no high school curriculum is designed for that test. But it makes no sense, because that's the one test that colleges use for admission and scholarship. And so that's kind of where, you know, I saw a huge opportunity to go in and really try to fill that gap and get that knowledge to those people to help them.
And that's when you started this HighPrep Tutor?
Yes. So basically the story on how I started the company, you know, when I went to Auburn, my ultimate goal was to always be a pharmacist, right? So, because I grew up in the type of town, man, where it's like, you know, you go to school, go to college, get a degree, and if you get a 6-digit job, like, you've made it, you're doing amazing, that type thing. And I chose pharmacy as the route that I wanted to go into. So basically illegal drug dealing, white coat, that type stuff. So I went through college at Auburn, got my undergrad degree finished up in 3 years. And then I started pharmacy school in 2018 to get my doctor of pharmacy. And basically what happened was, it was in very late in 2020, I had a family in Auburn. It was the Giles family. I'll give them a little shout out on that. They basically hit me up. Their son was at a 29, and I tutored him for about 3 or 4 weeks, and he had a 33. We continued to work together, and he finished out at a 35. And that family basically just started telling people in Auburn, you know, and Auburn is like a very small town, you know, great place to network and, you know, make lasting relationships. And, you know, the Giles family just started telling a lot of people about it. And it got to a point where when I started tutoring, Brad, like, I just like helping people learn the test. You know, I like meeting kids that, you know, wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to a certain college or pay for it. And I just like passing that on. And, you know, I like making a little extra gas money, little money to go out on the weekends and cover a part of my rent, stuff like that. And it got to a point where my phone was blowing up. I had people hitting me up all the time to help them with this test. And
mainly parents or kids?
Mostly parents reaching out. And it got to a point where I was about a year out from graduation. And that's kind of where this podcast came into my life. So I was at the gym one day, and I was working out with a buddy of mine named Dalton Silas. He has a couple businesses. He's involved in real estate and stuff like that. And we were just talking about podcasts we like, entrepreneurial books and things like that. And he goes, you should listen to this guy named Brad Lee. Your personality is kind of similar to him. I think you would like it. And so I started listening to your show my last year of pharmacy school, and I was basically doing 40-hour clinical rotation, you know, weeks. And I was, you know, working my ass off doing that during the week. And I was tutoring students at night on the side from that, right? And so basically when I saw that demand coming through and I started listening to this podcast and gaining a lot of insight from, you know, yourself and other entrepreneurs coming on, that light bulb just kind of clicked for me. And I realized that, like, I'm way more passionate about helping people with this test and overcoming this and getting into college than I would be standing in a drugstore for the next 40 years. And so I basically started the company officially my last year of pharmacy school in June of 2021. And when I branded the company and, you know, made a logo, HighPrep, we got the website going, now people are seeing that, not just Harrison Hightower's personal Facebook page. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so when I branded the company like that, it just started going nuts.
Nice. See how easy that is? See, everybody wants to act like it's rocket science.
It's really not. It's simple. It's simple. And I've been into something too, Brad. I really can't take credit for all of it myself. I've been so blessed with the right support system and people around me. You know, even my dad, you know, he worked in sales, but he was always very entrepreneurial on the side with different ventures he would do and the things he would take me along to do with him as a kid and stuff like that. And my mom the same way. She owned a florist part-time for like 10 years. And so I was around parents that were kind of like part-time entrepreneurs, but still had normal day jobs. And when I started listening to this podcast and everything, it started just getting bigger. And then I started having people come in to help me, like that guy sitting on the couch right there, Will Prater. It got to a point where I had so many students coming in to where we started helping with more than just ACT. Because with what I studied at Auburn, I could also help you with chemistry, calculus, physics, all those hard classes. And it got to a point where I had so many students I couldn't see them. And, him and I were buddies. Like, we'd work out at the gym together or go to the lake, stuff like that. And I was like, Will, I got a lot of kids that need help with chemistry. Do you want to come in and, work something out here? And he's like, sure, man, I'm all about it. And he came in and he started just helping dozens and dozens of students with chemistry. And he happened to be really, really good at it too. And it just started blowing up. It just started blowing up, and he went through pharmacy school as well. And he kind of had the same epiphany that I did, where he's like, man, we like helping people. We like helping people and make this process easier, because it's something that, like, a lot of people that go into fields of, medicine or pharmacy or engineering, they go on to do those careers. They don't normally stay back and help people with the content of those classes. And one thing that I've kind of found is, like, it's typically those people that are the best at teaching and explaining and helping students with those things. So, and it kind of just, kept going from there. And we're at the point now where we've got over, 50 tutors on our team, and we do everything from, ACT, SAT, GRE. We do the pharmacist licensure exam, academic consulting. We'll help with your college application, scholarship letters. And we try to just really help students in every way we can to get them from, that point where they're going through their classes in middle school and high school into getting accepted into college. We'll help you through college, and then hopefully any kind of licensure exams that you have as well.
What's your plan with HighPrep?
My long-term plan, this is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I've had a lot of perspective shifts in the past 6 months, I would say. And I've kind of learned that I wouldn't say that there's like a dollar figure or a certain number of tutors or students or anything like that I'm shooting for. I just want to get a little bit bigger every month, and my number one goal is to help more people. And I think that's the biggest thing of this partnership with Lightspeed, that's going to allow me to reach more people than ever before. Because the one thing about what we've been doing up to this point is there's a ceiling on the manpower.
That's right.
You only got so many tutors on your staff. They can only see so many people. And so I think the long-term vision right now is we're taking all of those classes that we can help students in, and we want to get those in virtual interactive courses. That way, that can be the gateway for a lot of students, and the live tutoring can be more of a supplement to that.
Yeah, smart. So again, Lightspeed will let you scale. You want to embed into those courses,
yes,
the option to jump on a tutoring session, because a lot of those sessions, they'll still have questions. So if I were you, I would embed interactively an option to schedule tutoring right through the course itself. So when you're, scaling it out to the masses, because I would imagine there'd be a lot of kids and a lot of parents willing to pay for that. They want their kids in better schools. But when the kid's going through, they might want to opt in to talk to somebody, get on. And then you're doing, virtual groups where you can, help them all.
Yes.
But the key, dude, that you're talking about, and I think most people need to understand, is like helping people. Like, everyone thinks, I've always been in sales, sales is where it's at. I say, if you want to get rich, number one, you got to get in the position to receive commission. Number two, get your mindset right, then your skill set, then your habits, then you got to take action. So you've done all those, fortunately you've had good parents. Mm-hmm. Some people have a problem with the mindset because of the parents. Unfortunately, a lot of parents are limited. They think in scarcity. They love you and they want to protect you, so they keep you small. Mm. When in reality, it's actually screwing kids.
Yes.
But dude, I would imagine you're about to get very wealthy.
Things are going good right now. Things are going very well.
Wait till you start, advertising and marketing. Like right now, you were all word of mouth.
Right.
Wait till you throw some paid ads and the word gets out, and then you get testimonial after testimonial, and then you upgrade them to the tutoring, and now you've got thousands coming into this on-demand platform.
Sure.
And then out of those thousands, they will interactively start buying tutoring to the masses.
Yes.
I mean, I think to a higher degree than you think.
It's a huge opportunity, and I'll tell you that it's something that makes sense for families, because when you talk about just getting accepted into college, that's huge, because their student may want to go to a particular university in their region, they may want to move out of state, and it's that test that really sets people apart. Because the thing for a lot of colleges is everybody has okay grades, but it's the ACT that is really kind of that thing that will set you apart. And it's also an investment for families. And I've met so many families, Brad, where they don't know how the scholarships work. And it's literally like, I grew up in Alabama in the South, so we're all SEC football, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, stuff like that. And if you go to these school websites, you can literally go to the website and it'll say, if you have this ACT score and this GPA, we'll pay you this much money per year. And when I saw that, I was like, damn, that is a very easy way to make $45,000 and save that tuition money and not take out loans. And so I always tell people transparently, I'm like, even if you're not going with my company, invest in something for the ACT, because even if you get a lower tier scholarship that's only paying you $3,000 a year, that's $12,000 over 4 years just because you did well on a test. I mean, there's so much free money out there. Most of it's federally funded. There's no ceiling on it. So,
and they negotiate, you know that?
Yes, I listened to that interview that you had.
Yeah, I was going to say, I should introduce you to that guy and you guys make some sort of collab.
I think that would be very beneficial both ways for sure.
Get his courseware and like make it an upsell.
Yes.
Like now that you're accepted, you want to negotiate because I mean, a lot of the times they'll say, well, according to him, hey, we'll give you 80, when in reality, they'll give you 110.
Right.
You just have to know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I see that going massive. What about how people aren't really valuing college as much anymore?
That's a great topic, and it's something that I was hoping that we would get to discuss here today, because, and again, I've listened to every podcast that you've ever had, every guest.
All 800?
A ton, yes. I mean, I started listening 5 years ago, and it's like when I was going on my hour commutes to pharmacy rotations, I'd hit one in the morning, I'd hit one at night on the way home, every day, like
right
that.
On.
Nonstop.
Hey, now, see that?
Yes.
See that? And tell them what it did for you.
I mean, it completely changed my perspective and outlook on everything.
See, and people wondered why I started it. And you know why I started it? Same reason you started doing that. I like helping people.
Yes.
There's all kinds of people that listen to this show that literally see me or text me or email me. They're like, man, I wasn't even thinking this. And like your guest or you or something happened to where it's like, dude, I started thinking. And a lot of these guys are now like successful,
right,
financially at least. There's all kinds of ways to succeed. One of them is financially, but there's no value in being rich and a dick or unhappy or depressed.
Yes. Well, and that's something too, like I said, man, I've had a lot of perspective shifts the past, couple years, because when I first started doing this, I'd never made, that kind of money in a month and stuff like that. And at first it's like you do start thinking about that, and it's, man, I want to get a nice truck. I want to get a nice watch. And I've done, some of those things and checked those boxes. And I realized that it's like, man, you get that nice truck. Like it's great the first week you get it, and I still like driving it. But what makes me like really happy and what I've kind of figured out is my purpose is when I help somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And even like some of the tutors that I have on my staff, it's like, man, like there's one tutor that comes to mind that was working at a gym that I worked out at when I just started the company. And, he was making like $9 or $10 an hour, struggling to get by, stuff like that. And I pay my tutors very well. Like I pay them the majority of the rate that we charge the families.
Dang. What's up? Reed? Which one's Reed?
Reed. Yes.
Chemistry dude. Well.
Yes. And I kind of flipped the script on that, because a lot of tutoring companies, they'll charge the parent the rate and they're keeping the majority. And I'm like, dude, if you're out there doing the work, you deserve the majority. I can make the smaller piece and we're good. And I've seen some of these tutors that they go from making $9 or $10 an hour in a, college job they don't like. And now they're making, $400, $500, $600 a week, which is a lot when you're a full-time college student. And I've had a couple of them come up to me and they're like, Harrison, like, I could barely get by before doing this. And I had one that said, I took my girlfriend out to dinner last Friday night and we both got the most expensive entree on the menu. We got appetizers, and he was grinning ear to ear, 20-year-old kid. I'm like, that's what makes me happy.
Wait till he figures out Applebee's ain't the best place in town.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think kind of my long-term vision with all this, man, is I kind of see the writing on the wall with, following yourself and a lot of your guests, that I'm going to stay growing this tutoring company and doing this. And when I feel like I've learned enough, business and real estate and stuff like that, I want to pass that on to other people too. Because one thing about what I do is I'm working with a lot of young people who don't have parents like I had. They don't have the type of dad that, like when I told my dad I was going to do this company, like there was no part of him that was like, well, son, you went to school for 7 years to be a pharmacist. Don't do that. That's stupid. Like me and my dad went out to dinner and I kind of showed him what I was doing, some of the numbers, stuff like that. And he's like, son, like, I think you should go for it, because worst case scenario, you can always go back and work at a Walgreens.
That's right.
Same thing with my mom, she told me the same thing. And my dad, and I didn't even need the money to do it, but it's
what if they would have told you, don't be throwing away your education, son.
Right.
You better just go be a pharmacist.
I mean, I wouldn't be here, You
would have listened?
Well, I mean, I don't think I would have, because I'm one of the most stubborn and hard-headed people you'll meet. Like if I want to do something, I'm going to do it, and nobody's going to stop me. But then again, it's like I had parents growing up that allowed me to do that. And like my dad, man, I didn't need startup money, but he's like, son, I'm gonna give you $1,000 to go get your website and your logo and stuff like that. And just having like selfless parents like that truly like wanted to see him and I do better than what they had. And I think that's why I like helping students so much, Brad, because I'll meet students that they don't have a dad. They don't have a dad in the house. They don't have parents that support them. And anytime we go do a deal at a school and I have the opportunity to speak to a couple hundred students, I'm like, the ACT gets me in the door. Like, I'm going to teach you how to get your ACT up and all that good stuff. But if me being there is a positive influence and it helps one 16-year-old kid change his outlook and, take that path, then it's worth it to me. And ultimately, I want to show more and more young people the value of entrepreneurship and doing your own business and sales and working in stuff that doesn't have a ceiling over you. Because the thing about Alabama, Brad, is like, you don't meet a lot of people that think like we do.
Well, someone there invented the toothbrush. You know that, right?
In Alabama?
Yeah.
That's news to me. I'm not aware.
Somebody did. Otherwise, they would have called it a teeth brush.
Right. That's a good one. And look, that's what people think when they hear Alabama. When I come to cities like this, and I'm like, man, I'm from Auburn, Alabama. We got football and tailgating and mud riding and all that. They don't normally see that when I first meet them. But yeah, Alabama is it's got some redneck parts for sure.
Well, the South has always been my favorite. Just the people are always, cool and,
Yes.
and laid back and kind of chill. And a lot of smart people, Wichita, Kansas has a lot of entrepreneurs come out of there.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily the South, but it's getting that way. But, so dude, like only because I'm a visionary, I already see, like, I think it's going to get bigger than you think it is,
Mm-hmm.
And you can take that into anything. Like you can take it into the bar exam.
Right.
There's lawyers lined up,
Mm-hmm.
and there's bar prep that's garbage.
Right.
I had a guy come through here once with his buddy that was filming some stuff, and he looked at the program when it was done. He's like, dude, you need to do this for the bar exam. And I'm like, well, I'm not the expert. I just have the software for the experts. Like somebody that preps people for the bar exam could put together a really cool interactive system to train people for the bar exam, sell the shit out of that.
Yes.
ACTs, SATs, like it just goes on and on and on and on.
Right.
And even classes, just
Yes.
regular tutoring. And then you could even get down to elementary. Right now, homeschooling's huge.
Yes.
And I was talking to my wife, because I homeschool my kids.
Right.
I was talking to her like, man, I need to find some teachers, some really good teachers, and just have them go into the studios and teach the curriculum they would be teaching at the school,
Yes.
fully accredited. But then a parent could just buy it, and the teacher will pop up and go through everything that they would have. Because if you ask me, I think schools got it backwards. Like what they do is they send the kid to school, and then the teacher talks, and then they go home with the questions and the homework to the parents. Like parents don't know. So why don't you do that the opposite? Why don't you send the teacher home virtually, Let the parent be the parent and make the kid go through the content, and then send them to school with the questions.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then why are they showing up at 7 a.m.?
Right.
You know, and then they're in uncomfortable chairs. They make it, I don't think school is designed for an entrepreneur.
Right. No.
Because their customer doesn't seem to be the student. It seems to be the teacher.
Yes, 100%.
What do you feel about university that does that?
So as far as university and that whole time, and I know we kind of got on a tangent there for a little bit, but as far as like college or not college and stuff like that, because I know a lot of the guests that I listen to, it's kind of like 50-50. They're like, you should go to college and get a degree, or you should not go at all.
What do you think my opinion is?
So I know from what I've heard, you typically say that you should go to foster relationships and meet people.
That's right. You do listen to the show, but
Yes.
that's right. Not only that, dude, it's an experience, bro. How you
Yes.
going to rob your kid out of a freaking college experience?
Right.
I got robbed out of a college experience, but I still went.
Right.
I just didn't go to class.
You're at the parties.
Yeah. I just went for the ladies. So I got the college experience. People say, did you go to college? I'm like, not really. I was there.
For sure.
But I didn't really pay attention, and I wasn't allowed in any of the classes.
Right.
But I didn't want to be in the classes.
For sure. Well, and I think that one thing that is what my perspective would be that, you can go to college and be entrepreneurial. Like a lot of entrepreneurs are like, it's one or the other. I'm like, you can do both. Like how many great companies started in a college dorm room?
A bunch,
and
those are relationships.
Yes.
Look at Zuckerberg.
For sure.
A lot of his college buddies ended up billionaires, damn near.
Sure. And it's like, even for me, it's like, and people will ask me all the time, they're like, Harrison, you're doing the tutoring company now and you're doing well with that and some real estate or whatever. They're like, do you regret going to college and pharmacy school for 7 years? I'm like, no, that's where I made the relationships and got the knowledge to start this company. Like it was literally the first family for that kid I tutored that went from a 29 to a 35. His parents were pharmacists and I met them in that space. So it's like, it was the people I met in that community that allowed me to do everything. And so what I try to encourage young people to do is like, go to college. If you don't know what you want to do, get a business degree, learn, sales, marketing, stuff like that, and study the entrepreneurial books too. Like when
do they teach those courses?
As far as entrepreneurship and everything,
yeah,
not good. Not well. I mean, Brad, I'll be honest. I've talked to some college people that have, a finance degree or an accounting degree, whatever, and they don't know anything about starting an LLC. They don't know how taxes work. They don't know how real estate works. And so I encourage kids, like, go to college for the relationships and people like what you recommend, but be reading the entrepreneurial books. Like every time I meet an 18-year-old guy, I'm like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, go read it. Think and Grow Rich, go read it. Lessons I've Learned the Hard Way, go read it. You know what I'm saying? That way you're going through college and getting all that, but you're still learning from entrepreneurs. And when you put those two together, I think that's a recipe for massive success.
Yes, sir. What about the 4 Agreements? Have you read that?
I have not read that one.
You guys better get your phones out and download it.
I'll be sure to.
The 4 Agreements. Yes, sir. That's a good one. As a Man Thinketh. What about that one? No? Dang, dude. How old are you?
27.
See, you're just a youngster getting started.
Yes, sir.
And I'll tell you, I see a bright future only because I don't think college, I mean, even though you hear a lot of smack talk now, the degrees are worthless. That's not necessarily true. And not only that, a lot of kids, they want to go to college.
For sure.
They're just not able to get into the ones they want. So they end up not going, or they get, shitty scores and don't get full rides. So they don't go.
Yes.
But if you could get parents to understand that, hey, Harrison can get your kid into the college on a full ride or at least a partial ride.
Right.
That would make a massive difference.
For sure. And I think another benefit of college with that is like a lot of people, when they're 18 years old, they're not ready for a lot of things. And I wasn't either. And keep in mind, Brad, I mean, I did well academically. I still had fun in college. I went to parties and football games and tailgates and girl chasing. I did all that through college too, but I was still taking care of business, and I feel like I wouldn't have been ready to start a business at 18, 19, or 20. I had a lot of growing up to do and a lot of things to figure out. But it was like kind of by the end of getting my degree, like I was ready to go. I had grown up enough. I'd met enough people. And, I'm not saying that college was what did it. It was really seeking, the podcast, entrepreneurial books, and listening to guys like you and all the other big hitters in the space. But it does buy time for maturity, I feel like.
Sure. It also develops, life skills.
100%.
Learning, relationships, how to get along with people, how to introduce yourself. So is your number one test the ACT?
That is the number one test.
And that's the one that they use to get into colleges?
Yes.
What's the SAT?
So it's a very similar test. The format is a little different, and most colleges will accept both of them. The SAT is a little bit more, it's a little bit more common in the Northeast, and then kind of in the South and even out here to the West, the ACT is the one that most people use. We can help students with both. There's a ton of overlap between both tests. And that's something that I think we'll be doing with you guys as well, is we'll get this ACT thing where it needs to be. We'll put SAT out and kind of just stay rolling from there, because, we want to be able to help you no matter which test you're taking to get in.
You think colleges will help you and promote you or stop you? Do they want to give away this money?
I think that, a lot of it is coming from federal programs. So I don't think the colleges care as much, at least like in Alabama, the public universities, it's not their money, it's coming from the government and stuff like that. And a lot of it has to be given out either way.
You focus on athletes?
We have worked with plenty of athletes.
I'd make that a division.
Yes.
Only because there's a lot of athletes that, can't tie their shoe, but they're good, and
yes.
colleges want them, but they're not getting the right scores. Dude, they'll pay, especially with NIL now.
Oh yeah.
They'll pay anything to get that kid in school.
For sure. And I've had some really great athletes. I've had some big baseball players that are on NIL deals and stuff like that right now. And I always tell my athletes, man, I'll work with a lot of big, jock football players, baseball players, and they don't want anything to do with the ACT. And I tell them, I'm like, look, if a university is looking at you and another guy, and you guys are both right here athletically, but if you're rocking a 25 ACT and that other guy's down here to 15, who are they going to take? They're going to take the guy that's not going to take their, team GPA and flunk out. They're going to bet on the guy that's got the athletic ability and the brains. And I tell them it's like getting an insurance plan, because the thing about sports is injuries do happen. And God forbid you snap your ankle senior year and your career is over. I mean, you got to have some plan B in place. So I kind of tell them it's like buying insurance as an athlete as well.
Yeah, for sure. You got kids and married or no?
No, sir. I'm single and living the bachelor life right now. So.
Is that fun?
I'm enjoying myself. I'll say that,
What's your parents teach you about getting married?
I think my mom would like me to settle down at this point for sure. They kind of let us do our thing, I mean, they would like it for sure. And I'm open to it now. If I'm being honest, I've had a couple long-term relationships. Like I dated, one girl for 2.5, 3 years in undergrad, another girlfriend for about 2 years in pharmacy school, and, learned a lot from those relationships. But I would say that I've struggled in that area getting into this whole thing, because I haven't really found a chick that understands this. Like the last girl I dated, she's like, all you want to do is work all the time. You don't want to see me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, look, I'm on this train and I'm going. It's going to create an awesome future. But, this is what I'm called to do and what I'm meant to do. If you can't handle it, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work out. And, so that's kind of where we've been from there. And
that's how you find the good ones.
Yeah.
You bypass those kind that convince people to stop being ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And you just ignore. Being open is good, but being desperate and searching,
right,
you never find the good ones that way.
Well, and it's something I was going to try to get some advice from you as well on this, because for a while I was like, man, I want a girl that's as driven as me, because I'm super driven. I want a girl that's super driven. And I've gone out with some girls in medical school, law school, stuff like that, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I want that. I think I might want a chick that's a little more low-key, traditional, and can just kind of say, man, I like the journey you're going on. I want to be a part of it and support you in any way I can, and really kind of build an empire together, as opposed to living these just two separate type lives.
Yeah, well, that's what you'll get.
Right.
You find one that's driven 9 times out of 10, they're out, You never see them.
Right.
And then, if and when you have kids, who's taking care of them?
Exactly.
A nanny? Like, you find one. If I was advising you, I would say, number one, don't be looking. They'll come along. Trust me. Especially the richer you get, just keep developing yourself and not be looking. And the more money you have, next thing you know, dude, they're all over the place. However, you still don't look. The right one will catch your attention. And then I think what you're trying to do is find a partner, right? Yes. Not just a wife, but a partner. And that partner should be good at things you're not, or be where you can't be. You know what I mean?
100%.
So like mine, she's at home chilling with the kids. Now people say, well, why don't you get her a nanny? Number one, we kind of have a nanny. That's her mom. But she doesn't want one.
Right.
She doesn't want one. Like, dude, I got lucky. She wants to be at home. She wants to fill that void. And that's exactly what I needed.
Yes.
So to me, like, the right one is not going to be out there competing with you.
Right.
Next thing you know, nobody's at home. You guys never see each other. And 9 times out of 10, when girls cheat,
it's at work.
It's at work. Why? Because they're hanging out with all these other people. Now, if my wife wanted to build a business, if she says, hey, I'm ready to build a business, as long as, she can be ambitious and driven and build a business. It's just, at some point you're almost like, well, again, I can build businesses.
Right.
Like, I don't really need you to do that. I kind of need you to do this, because that's what I'm not doing.
Yes.
That's where I'm not. So it's a team.
Yes.
It's like, what if you have a baseball team and everybody's first base?
Exactly.
And they're all really good. Well, you're not going to win anything. You need other positions. So I would always advise, number one, don't be looking. And then number two, when they do show up, see where you're not.
Right.
And if that's where they are, that's perfect.
Yes.
And if they're like driven like you are and they're always working like you are, I don't know if you need 2 ambitious people in a relationship. And again, that's because I'm talking about a team.
Right.
It'd be fun to have a rich wife.
Sure.
People always ask me, like, you don't wish your wife was rich? Shit, yeah, I wish she was rich. That'd be awesome. But at the end of the day, I don't need her to be rich because I am.
Right.
So I need her to be what I'm not. And that's a team.
Yes.
So I think you need to be looking for someone who is going to fill the gaps where you're not.
Right. No, and I think that's ultimately kind of what I'm, just being patient for, because I have opportunities to go on dates, and I do. I have my fun and stuff like that. But, it's going to be until I find a chick that I feel like gives me peace when I'm away from the work and wants to kind of play that support role, because I feel like, at least what I've learned from past relationships and guys like you and even my parents, like, my parents had a great marriage for 25 years and they were perfect for each other while they were raising myself and my brother, but they got a divorce when him and I moved out, because when the kids went away, their chemistry was not what it needed to be. And
But it also could have been they were waiting for that.
True. Very, very true.
A lot of couples stay together until their kids leave.
Right.
Thinking that, like, that's better for the kids.
Yes.
Which in your case sounds like it is, because, they weren't fighting and screaming. But
Right.
I think 2 happy households is better than 1 miserable household.
I would agree.
So when someone asks me, you think I should get a divorce? Well, I don't know. It depends on the environment that your kids are being raised in.
Right.
If you couldn't tell and you thought, well, they divorced weirdly enough right after we moved out. Well, they might have been just good parents that kept their mouth shut until like it was time. Or you never know. Like you said, you guys could have moved out and then all of a sudden the dynamic shifted.
Right. Right. Well, and I would say for them, because they're very transparent with him and I, and, they met early 20s, college party stage, stuff like that, and probably got married for the wrong reasons, But when it came time to be parents, they were damn good parents for 25 years. And I appreciate them both for that. And I will say that now that they have been divorced a few years, they're both happier and they're both better off and with other people, and life is good. We have good relationships with both of them, But I think that seeing them go through that, it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about what I would kind of want for myself and, red flags that I look out for, stuff like that. And the financial thing is a big part of it too, because I did see them get strained financially at times and argue about money, a few times like that and stuff like that. I know for me, it's like, again, like I don't need a chick that has to make a certain salary or anything like that. Like I want a girl that's the support role. Like, you know, you let me kill it and drag it home and, you know, keep everything good behind the scenes. And the thing, you know, about having businesses and stuff going on, like there's so much stuff going on behind the scenes that people don't know about, that I'm like, why would it even make sense for me to build this business and this empire and then have a wife that's working building someone else's empire? That doesn't make sense to me, you know.
That's not a team.
It's not a team.
Not only that, some dude can call her and say,
I love that story that you tell on the podcast, Brad. Like,
I had to put a stop to that.
Oh, really?
What do you mean? The story you're talking about is when we were chilling in bed on a Sunday morning.
And the boss called and you're like, no.
Yeah, and she said, I got to go. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who was that? That's my boss. I said, well, you better tell your boss that you're done. Right. And people are like, you made her stop working? She wanted to. Right. She wanted to. Mm-hmm. Like, people always ask and think that I'm some sort of, you know, controlling guy. Like, if you talk to my wife, dude, there's nothing like that. I'll support her in whatever she does. Fortunately, she does what I want her to. Mm-hmm. You know, the only thing I really ask from a wife would be, number one, loyalty.
Right.
Like, that's it. Like, you be loyal. If you're not loyal, that causes all kinds of issues. And most people don't have business problems. They have personal problems at their business.
Absolutely.
And a good wife, a good spouse, a good choice can like make or break a company. If you got some needy ass whiner, constantly complaining, always wanting your attention and your time, bro, like, trust me, she's for the streets.
Right.
Like, go take her out. You can always still bone them.
For sure.
Most people don't understand that. Like, you don't have to marry them just to have fun. You know, date them, hang out. They don't want to date anymore because you're not paying enough attention to them. Say, listen, what's easier to replace, a multi-million-dollar business or a chick?
Right. I think that's Kevin O'Leary that coined that one at the universities, right?
Yeah. Which one's easier?
For sure.
Yeah. So again, listen, now eventually you'll get to a point where you'll meet someone, as long as you stay open to meeting people, that, like, she just fits.
For sure.
There's no stress. People say everybody stresses. Yeah, but like not to the point where like there's constant drama.
Right. One thing that I've been curious to ask you, because, you know, I follow a lot of the, you know, people in your space, such as, you know, Andy and Grant.
Andy Elliott.
And Michael Burke.
People say Andy. I always wonder if it's Andy Frisella. Do you know Frisella?
I do, yes.
Yeah, like, dude, that dude.
Next level.
Dude, people don't realize. Like, that dude is a freaking beast.
He is, for sure.
I mean, Andy Elliott's beast too, but like Andy Frisella, beast.
Right.
Like, most people don't even realize how successful he actually is.
Right.
That dude is like, number one, he's cool as shit, right? Down to earth. St. Louis, born and raised.
For sure.
You know, he's just not full of shit.
Right.
And his company, he started from scratch. He went years without making money, just like me. The difference is his company's worth like $4.5 billion. That's insane. And maybe more by now. That was a while back. And he owns, I think, half of it.
Right.
And when his partner started it, and his partner, nobody even knows who he is.
Right.
He's just a, you know, quiet dude, lays in the back, lays in the cut. And then, you know, Andy started a podcast and, you know, keeps it real. But you go to his house or his homes and you see his shit, his material possessions, like, dude, you realize, like, holy shit, dude, how much money are you making? And then you realize, oh, he's a billionaire.
That's insane.
Nobody even realizes it.
Right.
They just think he's just some bearded, you know, tatted up.
The motivational guy on Instagram giving the hard hitting messages.
Yeah, but dude, that dude's a billionaire.
For sure.
That's crazy, dude.
Right.
That's my goal.
I love it. No, and the question that, like, I was going to ask about those guys like Andy Elliott, Cardone, and, you know, I see their wives in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And the wives seem to be super involved. They're in a lot of the stuff with them. And I've noticed that your wife is a lot more kind of low key behind the scenes. Like, you'll, you know, post her here sometimes and stuff like that. And I was going to ask, like, how you feel like your dynamic compares to those guys' you know, dynamic of having their wives more like on the front and center doing a lot of the business stuff. Like, how would you compare the two dynamics there?
Well, my wife doesn't want to be, number one. Andy Elliott's wife basically runs shit. Andy just does the shit, right? She runs the shit. So like they're a couple, like they're a team, but they're both involved, which is cool in some ways, you know, but it's not what I would want.
Right.
Like I want a wife to lay in the cut, take care of the kids in the home, because the home, dude, is a whole nother thing.
It's a lot.
And if you can go home and it's like taken care of and your kids are taken care of, it gives you the confidence and the security to go out there and fight the dragons and you know, get in the battles.
100%.
But if you have your wife with you in the battles, well, who's taking care of the kids? And eventually I think that ends up showing.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen, you know, with them. I guess we'll see, because their kids are growing up.
Sure.
But their kids seem great. Cardone and Elena, Grant and Elena. Again, I don't know. Like I don't try to get in their business.
Right.
So Elena, I think she was going to be an actress. She was trying to be an actress. Started getting roles, this and that, and then Grant came in and closed her.
Right.
And you know, she was like behind a lot of his drive and kind of pushed him when he needed to be pushed. So, you know, in some ways, like they're like a team, but just not the kind of team I'd want.
Sure. Well,
and everybody's different. Like
yes.
I don't want my girl up front and center.
Right.
And tough. I don't want a tough chick.
Right. You know, I would say I'm similar to that, and I have a good perspective, because like my mom, for example, she stayed home with him and I like the first 10 years, and you know, I wouldn't be the man I am today without my mom like that.
That's right.
Because man, she took us to do everything, and you know, man, reading books to us when we were 2 and 3 years old, and she was always there picking us up from school, just super involved.
And your dad was out kicking ass.
Yeah, my dad.
And he knew that she was doing that.
Yeah,
that's me right there.
Yes.
Like I'll go fight the battles. You take care of the kids, and we're good. Feminine.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want a feminine. I like feminine
I do too.
women. I don't want.
I do too.
You know, testosterone-filled women.
Yes. Well, I mean, and I'll be honest with you, Brad. I went on a date with a girl the night before I flew out here on this trip. And we were, you know, this first date, you know, no idea where it's going to go. But I was just casually asking her questions, and I was like, yeah, so tell me about your home life and your parents or whatever. And she's like, you know, my mom, you know, she quit working when my dad started doing this and stayed home with us and blah, 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 blah. And I said, do you think you might want to do something like that? She's like, oh, yeah, I would love that, to be at home and do this and do that. And I'm like, that's what I'm looking for. Like, well,
there's a lot of ladies out there like that. They just can't be. Because they're picking men that aren't like really men.
Well, and it's something I feel an obligation to do that. Like, man, I feel an obligation to, like, it's my job to go kick ass and put it on the table and get us like a good place to live and take care of this. And I feel like me growing up as a kid, you know, I heard my parents argue about money a couple times and things like that. And me and my future wife, that's never going to be an issue, because I'm not doing my job if it is. You know, and I don't want my kids to ever feel a stress of, hey, we can't pay for you to be on the baseball team, or we can't do this or can't do that. So I feel like that's part of why I've tried to really work my ass off in my 20s to make sure I get that stuff taken care of. And I don't want to have that tension down the road, because I feel like so many people get married too fast, and they end up, you know, they both have to work full time. They're stressed. They disagree about money. They're not on the same page. And it's just.
You got a magic floor?
You know, if I'm being honest, Brad, I do, but I pay somebody to do it. I have somebody that comes.
That's a magic floor.
Yes, for sure.
I pay someone to do it too.
Yeah.
My wife. But no, my wife, she's cool.
Right.
So unless she fucks up, you know, I'm going to stick with her.
Right.
But if she were to do something stupid, well, guess what? My dad used to tell me, if you miss the 8:15 bus, the 8:30 is going to be coming around anytime.
Right.
So again, a lot of people say, how could you say that about your wife? Because I'm real. Like, you know, if I did some stupid shit, she'd probably leave me too.
Right.
Like, why would I sit there and be like, oh, we're in it forever together? If she pulls some stupid shit, I'm single again.
Right.
And all I do is just like get on social media and say, see, women are just terrible. You know, no, I wouldn't. I would say I was single though, to see how many people are laying
I don't think you'd have
laying
much
in
of a
wait.
problem. You wouldn't have much of a problem there, would you?
Well, I'm
Brad?
getting old, bro. I don't know, man. I got to go get some Botox or some shit. But no, I wouldn't have a problem for at least another 5 years. But like, you know, you get old enough pretty soon. Now you're just an old man.
Right.
But if you're an old rich man, you still ain't going to have a problem.
Right.
If you want just, you know, to hang out with them.
Sure.
But dude, you're going to find someone way before you're like, I'll bet you have someone within 5 years.
Right.
Unless you're trying not to.
Right.
Which I wouldn't try not to. Just don't try and just be open.
Well,
and as they come along, dude, just raise your standards. That's all. That's all people have to do. Raise your standards. There's women that are dating guys that make no money because they don't have any standards. They're like, well, I'm not looking for money. I'm looking for love. Well, again, that's because you don't think they can both coexist.
right.
And then men get pissed off when I say it because they don't have any money. So what are you saying? I'm not worth anything? No, if I were you, I would go get rich. I wouldn't be worried about a chick right now. I'd be worried about building yourself and your business to where now you are financially well off. And now you're in a position to where you can take care of a real girl, a good one. Because again, there's a lot of trash out there. There's definitely trash out there. And I'm not what I'm talking about. One time I said, if you have a good woman and she's out spending your income, then you need to make more money. And everyone freaked out that I said that.
Right.
All these guys calling me a simp. It's like, no, dude, a good woman wouldn't outspend your income, first of all. So if you have a good woman and she's outspending your income, it's because you're not making enough.
Yes.
So you got to go make some more. Quit looking at her. Quit blaming you didn't have a dad and you didn't get into fucking Auburn. Like, go to work is what you need to do. And there is a mindset issue in the world.
Yes.
Mindset's everything. You know, you believed you could. And then you had parents that were encouraging you. Some people believe they can, and then their parents talk them out of it.
Shut them down.
Yeah. So it's like you had a good combination of things, but at the end of the day, everyone's got the same ability. They don't believe it, which is all mindset.
For sure. Well, and I think it's something too, I'm way more open to all that now because I went through a period of time when I was starting the company and everything where I was just working 24/7 and I would have, opportunities to come up to meet girls and stuff like that. And I just wouldn't even entertain it. But it's like to the point now where I'm probably more open to it and stuff because I feel like I just got burned on the past relationship, pulling away. I'm like, yeah, this ain't the time for that right now. But I'm learning that it's like the right thing will have the synergy between it where it's like it'll make things better on both the business, the home stuff, personal life, and things like that. And so I think that'll kind of be the next chapter past all this and stuff like that.
Yeah, it will. It definitely improves the situation. And not only that, dude, it's no fun to be rich and not have anyone to share it with.
For sure.
So, number one, my advice to young men, get rich. Now, how do you do that? Get in the position to receive commission. You got to sell something. But it's in my mind, mindset, skill set, habits. The skills. You developed a skill to help people with tests.
Right.
Now you're looking to help people. That's an energy shift. Most people don't pay attention to the energy we have. We're all vibrating in a frequency. You understand? Every one of us. What's that vibrational frequency is the question. And it's usually you vibrate, your frequency is kind of what you frequently see. So if you're constantly around negative and scarcity and limited, then that's kind of what you attract more of. And some people are stuck forever that way because they don't realize that that's just a choice they're making. You're choosing that. From the second you wake up, everything's about choices.
Right.
And I choose when I wake up gratitude. Why? Well, because number one, I'm thankful.
Yes.
Like I'm thankful I'm healthy. I'm thankful I got what I got. I'm thankful for life. I'm thankful for the simplest things. And that puts me at a different energy. And then when I start to go to work, I'm not coming here to make money and build an empire. I'm coming here to help people.
Right.
Like, who can I help? I'm going to help you. I'm going to help the people listening. The podcast is to help people. Like all I'm trying to do is help people. And the craziest part is that attracts more of that energy. So now, dude, everything just starts working out and people come into your life and, you know, answers appear. And all of a sudden everyone's, oh, that's nonsense. It's not nonsense, dude. It's 100% real.
Well, and to be honest too, that is one of the biggest things that I've gained from a lot of your stuff the past year. And I read your book about 6 months ago. And because the thing about it, Brad, I have made a lot of mistakes. You know, I have, you know, at times valued money over relationships and burned a couple bridges. I've done things I'm not proud of and stuff like that. And when I really shifted my perspective to just really making it about helping other people, I learned that I'm happier, more good things come my way, and everybody wins.
Not to mention, dude, when this life's over, they say there's another one and it lasts a whole lot longer.
Yes.
And if you ain't good on that one, brother, this one don't mean diddly shit.
Right.
You could be the richest, happiest dude here,
and
that's nothing. That's like, bam. And now all of a sudden you got to pay for it forever.
And it's one thing too that I would say that I feel almost like an obligation because, you know, I've been blessed more than I deserve, and God has given me a lot of, you know, talents and skill sets to be able to go through and learn and master something and then pass it on to other people. And I feel like an obligation, like I'm supposed to do that. And it's like, what is the point of me having all this and, you know, moving forward in life if I don't help other people do it? Because I know some people back near my hometown, some guys that are in real estate and, you know, maybe worth $20-30 million, stuff like that. And they don't do anything to help other people learn the game. I'm like, dude, you have this incredible life that you've got in business and real estate, and you never help anybody learn it. They're almost like they want to keep it to themselves like a secret. And to me, it's like anytime I find something good, it might just be like a new workout thing, a new restaurant, a new way of doing something, a new way of life. And on the big scale, this whole entrepreneurship game that people don't know, I want to help other people get a taste of it. Because when I see them get a taste of it and they're living a better life and they're happy and they find their purpose, man, there is nothing in the world that makes you feel better than that. You know, and again, that's something that I've grown up a lot and changed because, you know, Brad, I didn't grow up with, you know, excess money and nice cars. So when it first started coming in, like I was, you know, enjoying that or whatever, but I learned real quick, like I can have all that stuff in the world and it doesn't matter.
What kind of truck did you get?
I got a Raptor.
Raptor R?
I did not get the Raptor R. That's
dude.
coming. I saw yours in the parking lot yesterday. That's a badass truck. So
yeah, you got to get the R, bro.
I know we're working up to that.
The Raptor is like, you know, junior status.
Exactly.
And then the R is like freaking Mac Daddy.
Right. No, I saw
You see what's down there today?
I saw the rolls down there.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll drive the Ferrari tomorrow.
I love it.
But you know, you'll also realize now I'm just tired of the fancy shit. I'm not going to get rid of it necessarily, but if I could go back, dude, the Raptor's all I really like to drive.
I mean, even the one I've got, man, it's just a smooth driving truck. It's comfortable. I mean,
yeah, but it sounds like a moped.
Yeah. I need to go up
What
to the
year
V8.
is it?
It's 23.
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Right.
Can't have it.
Right.
I have a TRX too.
Which do you like, the Raptor R better?
I like them both. It depends on what's happening. But I had to get the TRX because it was a V8 and the V6 Raptor, embarrassing.
Right.
So I drive the TRX. Well, I had the Raptor because they just look kick ass.
Right.
But I'm like, you know, if they ever come out with a V8 again, dude, I'm getting it.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as they announce the R, I'm like, boom, done. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like torn between the two. It depends on which is what's happening. So if apocalypse took place, I'd get in the TRX. It's like heavier and meatier and like you'll run fucking cars over.
Right.
But the Raptors, you know, sportier and more nimble, I'd take that. Like if I was going to go out in the dunes or 4-wheel drive,
right,
I'd take the Raptor. But I like them both. The interior of the TRX though blows the Raptor away. Ford,
Really?
You need to get your shit together when it comes to the interior of a Raptor. Garbage. You notice that?
I mean, again, you got to keep in mind, Brad, I grew up in Alabama where like my first truck was an '02 Tacoma.
So you're like driving the equivalent of a Lambo down there.
Well, that's the thing. If you go through these small towns in Alabama, Brad, you don't see a lot of Raptors on the road. Like if you're driving a Raptor in Alabama, Georgia, like, yeah, it's not like when you come out here to Vegas and you see all the Lambos and Ferraris, and like down in Alabama and Georgia, like you got the Raptor, the GMC Denali, like you're balling out in Alabama.
That's right.
Sure.
Are you planning on staying there?
So, and that's something else that I've put a lot of thought into recently. I think that long term, I would be happy if I kind of had the opportunity between a couple different locations. I did visit Nashville about 6 months ago, and I know you like Nashville a lot too, and I love that area.
I'm opening a studio down there.
I'm excited about it, and I'm hoping that, I can be driving up and do some more stuff with you, because it's literally a 4-hour drive from Auburn, super easy for me to make. But I think long term, man, I would like to have maybe, a little spot here, a spot there, and be able to bounce around every few months and kind of do what I want to do. I don't think I would be fully happy if I was just like in one location year round all the time for 10 years or anything like that.
Well, dude, it seems like you got your head on right. Looks like you got a bright future. The Bomb Squad, what can they do for you?
I would say the biggest thing is just if you need any kind of help with anything tutoring related, from middle school level all the way through high school, college, stuff like that. Any kind of college consulting help, reach out to us. The biggest thing that we really want to, get out to people right now is our new virtual ACT prep course that is hosted with Lightspeed. It's called HighPrep Academy. So the biggest thing would be, check us out on social media. HighPrep Tutoring on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that good stuff.
No matter where you're from, he's
Yes.
putting together an interactive training technology that allows them to pop up anywhere, speak any language. That's another thing, man. You might want to get some shit translated into Spanish.
It's a great idea.
All kinds of languages.
Mm-hmm.
The system will do it, but it'll just subtitle it. But if it gets big enough, that industry, then you just hire someone to come in to and speak it.
Right.
You'd have to just refilm it all, but that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you guys need any tutoring, whether it's you or your kids, I would be sending them to HighPrepTutoring.com.
Yes.
And by the way, you should come up with a kind of a saying like, if you're going to get high, make sure it's high prep.
Right. Just goes right with the
If they-
last name Hightower. It just flows, right?
If you don't want them to get high, make sure they're high prep.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that. Is that where you came up with it?
So, yes. I mean, it's just kind of the last name Hightower, and I was just kind of spitballing one day and, kind of in a good creative flow state driving down the road. And I was like, high prep, like that's going to be the name.
Not only that, high scores.
Exactly. It's kind of meant to be one of those things,
Yeah, aim high.
Mm-hmm.
You got t-shirts and merch?
We don't really at this time.
I'd be instantly on that.
All right.
Just go make some cool merch to where
Sure.
like if you're tutoring a kid, give them a freaking t-shirt.
Right.
That looks like one of those college t-shirts, one that they'd wear, like good quality. Don't do the cheap shit because you want to give it away.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even, a lot of people think they need to give away the cheap swag and then nobody wears it.
Right.
Like you want to get the higher end swag.
Mm-hmm.
It costs you more, but even if you raise your fee, like I'd rather, raise my fee by $20 and include a high prep, t-shirt.
Yes.
But I would get merch for sure.
Right. I will definitely do that. And
What's your logo look like? Is it like a
it's a cool looking logo.
shield, like a coat of arms? What is it?
It's like a little arrow going up with like a cap and gown over it, and it's just kind of like got that like high up type vibe. Really, really cool looking logo. I'll show it to you when we hop off and see what you think and everything. One thing that did just come to mind as far as like the Bomb Squad and other ways we could potentially help people, I would say if there's anybody listening that's out there in a career where maybe they're not having the fulfillment they want, and you're the type of person that did well in chemistry, calculus, physics when you were younger, reach out to us if you would be interested in working with us, because we do a ton of live virtual tutoring over Zoom as well. And so if there's anybody that is really passionate about helping people with this coursework, please reach out. And if there's anybody too that just wants any kind of advice on, you know, entrepreneurship, any of that, I mean, I have a lot to learn, but they're welcome to hit me on Instagram at Harrison Hightower there as well. And I'd be happy to just, you know, give you my 2 cents if you want any advice on anything. Because I've got a long way to go, but there's a lot of stuff that I know now that I wish I knew right when I started. And I feel like I could save people a lot of time with that as well, as far as the whole process of starting a business and LLC and this and that, whatever. And that's something that I'm passionate about helping people with as well.
What about scripts? Can you write some scripts for Adderall or anything?
I can't do that, Brad. You know, as a pharmacist, you know, I can legally dispense it, but I can't write the original script for it.
You know, what's funny is I learned that a pharmacist has more authority than a doctor.
Yes. Well,
you know that? Like, dude, because one time I had a doctor's prescription for ivermectin back in COVID.
Right.
Because I had friends, and a lot of people weren't lying. Ivermectin, now we know was a cure, a work, or a medicine. And so my buddy said, here, boom, ivermectin for your whole family. Right. So I went down to the pharmacy, dude, and those pricks wouldn't fill it. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Doctor said to give me my prescription. And they informed me that the pharmacist decides whether you actually get it or not.
Right.
Is that true?
Yes. So they will have the final say there. And the one thing that I'll say that is like the big benefit of a pharmacist is they do catch a lot of last minute problems. Like if,
from the doctors forget?
Yes. Like let's say you have somebody that's on, you know, a cocktail of blood pressure, blood thinner meds, maybe they're diabetic. You know, there are certain scenarios where like one wrong drug will cause an interaction that'll, you know, kill you like that. And it's normally the pharmacist that is they're that last person that puts their hands on it before it goes to the patient. And when I was going through school and everything, I saw so many scenarios where the pharmacist doing their job saved that person's life and stuff like that. And I will plug, you know, pharmacists as far as, you know, they're very reachable in the community. And a lot of people don't know that, like, you can walk in a pharmacy and get basic health advice from your pharmacist, you know, without having to pay to go visit a doctor. You know, you can go in and say, hey, I got this, you know, rash going on or this, that, whatever. What product would you recommend to help with this? And like when I went through pharmacy school, man, they taught us everything, because to be a pharmacist, you kind of have to know the disease states and all the problems, but you know way more about the drugs and the treatments than the doctors do. What
if someone comes in and says, I got this like red patch on my dick?
You know, that's something I would not be taking care of, Brad. I'll tell you that right now.
Do pharmacists ever guess? Like, yeah, it's penicillin ought to work.
Yeah, I would say so. A lot of clinical pharmacists, they'll treat stuff like that for sure. But that route was not for me. I know.
Do they tell you to go to a doctor?
Well, so like if you're at a drugstore and you go to a pharmacist or something like that, yeah, they're going to tell you to go to a doctor.
Which you should.
100%.
That was me joking, folks.
Yes.
if you have rashes on your extremities, go see a doctor.
100%.
Well, dude, like I said, I see big bright future for you and your team. Guys, go follow this dude at Harrison Hightower is his personal account, at HighPrep Tutoring. Go follow that as well. And if you guys want help, man, and you want to get into better schools and you want to raise your scores up high, go to HighPrepTutoring.com. And again, keep it real. Thanks for coming in.